my whole philosophy, I really do believe this, that artists are the people who are going to change and heal the world. That's not a revolutionary statement like it's been said, and I truly believe that.
This is Arts Educators Save the World, where successful artists and their mentors talk about how arts education transformed their lives. Welcome back to Arts Educators Save the World, a podcast where artists and their mentors talk about the impact of arts education on both their lives. And I am here with my own brand of mentor, lifelong friend Alec Lev. Hi, Alec.
Hi, Erica. I'm terrified. Hold on. I'm supposed to. If I'm mentoring, I have to know things, and I have nothing. I don't know things. Do I know things?
You're a life mentor. It's a lifelong mutual mentorship. Some might call that a friendship.
Let me tell you, if you saw my the organization in the boxes in my garage, I can mentor anyone on keeping their stuff labeled. You need a label maker. You need boxes. All this. Let's get into it later. I know some things.
This is great. I mean, I used to refer to that as the 7th grade version of somebody, like where you imagine your trapper keeper with all of its little labels, and it's like 7th grade Erica was really excited about that. So it sounds like 7th grade Alec is excited about like a label maker and some boxes. Even if it's not literally Alec in 7th grade.
Right, and 7th grade Alec did not care about that at all, but 50th grade Alec is a big fan.
Well, today on our podcast, we are actually pivoting slightly from mentorship towards two people who work together around an arts education program, two self-described arts educators, one of whom comes more from the education direction, the other of whom comes more from the arts direction, and they converge around the program that we're going to talk about today, which is the Disney Musicals in Schools Arts Education Program that brings titles of Disney musicals in the TYA, the Theater for Young Audiences version, and gives them to public schools around the country to have their own students perform.
Yeah, I mean, I think what blew me away with this is that somehow I managed to not know that this existed. Yet I'm a sort of a human on the planet. I'm in America. I know there are schools. I know schools are a thing. I know Disney's a thing, and that musicals and plays are things. I did not know what Disney did. I did not know that they did anything like this. I don't want to say too much about what they did, A, because I don't remember things, but two, because it's amazing to hear them lay it out. And anyone's idea of what a big corporation does or doesn't do, I think will be nicely punctured a little bit by what it is that Disney allows people to do with their work.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you hadn't heard of it because you live in Los Angeles. And so Los Angeles public schools, we didn't get into whether LAUSD has Disney musicals in schools, but it's such a huge public school system that you could imagine that there are multiple schools that have Disney musicals in schools, but that your children's schools may not have it for whatever reason. Living in Madison, as we talk a little bit about on the podcast, we have Disney musicals in schools, and I've had the chance to interact over the years with different aspects of the project, from working with classroom teachers, working with the teaching artist team at our Performing Arts Center who trains the teaching artists to work in schools. And so I've had a chance to see, not from the center of it all, New York City public schools, but from one of these satellite locations, how this program can directly impact young people in their performing arts lives. So let's get into it, yeah?
Yeah, I was just going to say that between you and me, on average, we know a lot about this program.
That's right. And L. Stephen Taylor and Lisa Mitchell were key to developing our averaged out understanding.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Normally on Arts Educators Save the World, I introduce the artist we have, and then that artist introduces their mentor. But We are throwing norms to the wind today, much like things that are going on all around us. So I'm going to start by bringing into the conversation Dr. Lisa Mitchell, Director of Education and Audience Engagement at Disney Theatricals. She is the queen of the Disney Musicals in Schools program, which we will get into much more during our conversation. Lisa has worked for Disney for 19 years in a range of roles, most focused on education. She holds an EDD from Johns Hopkins University in entrepreneurial leadership and education, and she teaches classes and workshops about social entrepreneurship and the arts across the U.S. But there's more. Lisa is a published author of both academic writing and a children's book. She is an elected member of her local school board, and I have on good authority that she is a budding space photographer. That's right. She takes pictures of outer space. It's an honor to have educator, artist, scholar, social entrepreneur, space photographer, Lisa Mitchell as our guest today. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Erica. Who's been letting you creep on my social media? I love it.
The great Randy Meyer was kind enough.
Randy's a gem.
To give me some more insight into who you are as a human.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk about all of the good work that we're all trying to do.
Well, I would love if you would bring into the conversation the artist that we brought with us today to share in that good work.
Absolutely. I am very excited to introduce you all to L. Stephen Taylor. L. Stephen is a cross-genre artist with over 27 years of professional experience in the business of TV, film, Broadway, voiceover, commercials, and print. He is a proud member of the Screen Actors Guild, the American Film, Television, and Radio Association, and the Actors Equity Association, and can currently be seen starring on Broadway in Disney's The Lion King as Mufasa, the Lion King himself, as well as at Carnegie Hall. Recently, he starred on Law & Order SVU to critical acclaim and has guest starred on popular TV shows such as The Good Fight, Blue Bloods, Madam Secretary, Person of Interest, Legacies, NCIS New Orleans, as a series regular on The Electric Company reboot, the film Baby Blue on BET, and as Dan in the film Then Came You with Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones. L. Stephen grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, where he taught pre-K before pursuing theater as a career. After transitioning into a life as a full-time artist, he served as the resident choreographer for the American Cabaret Theater. There, he combined his love of teaching and the arts to spearhead a theater program for historically underserved youth, teaching them how to use the arts as a means to make positive changes in their lives. And on top of all that, in New York, he works closely as a fundraising advocate for Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, and has raised over $100,000 for the organization through his efforts. His advocacy efforts for arts education and his work in social justice earned him the Distinguished Public Service Award from the City of Queens, awarded by Council Member Jimmy Van Bramer. He is an avid spoken word artist and has penned the spoken word series Words of Perspective, which turns social media exchanges into short films, spoken word poetry as the vehicle that drives each narrative. And this year, he will be releasing the debut book in his new children's book series, My Lion and I, which will teach children how to summon their inner lion as a metaphor for finding the courage to deal with topics such as bullying, standing up for others, going to the dentist, fear of differences in people and experiences, as well as how to develop self-confidence and self-awareness. He says we can be scared but brave at the same time, and I am thrilled to introduce your listeners to the exceptional L. Stephen Taylor.
Yes.
Thanks, Lisa.
Welcome to both of you. It's always a shame, Alec, when our guests are so unimpressive. You know, it's like we got to do all the work around here.
I mean, the question is, has Stephen taken a single picture of outer space?
I can confirm I have not.
Well,
Come on up to the burbs. I got the telescope.
Well, I was going to start at kind of where we are now and work our way backward, if that's okay with you, and ask you, Lisa, to tell us about the Disney Musicals in Schools program. And then, L. Stephen, if you could say kind of what you do in collaboration with that program, how you got involved, and kind of how you support that work. I think then we can work our way backward to kind of how you both charted this path to living at the intersection of art making and supporting the educational lives of young people.
Yeah, you bet. So Disney Musicals in Schools is our flagship education program at Disney Theatrical Group. And essentially what the program does is take musicals that we've created for elementary school aged performers and grants those musicals free of charge to under-resourced public schools that don't currently have a theater program. But instead of just kind of giving them the script and score and saying good luck, we send in a pair of teaching artists, which are, equal parts artist and equal parts educator, to work with the kids, but more significantly, to work with a team of classroom teachers, to train them in foundational skills on how to become directors, choreographers, producers, stage managers, music directors, so that when we're not there in the future, they've got the foundational skills that they need to keep doing shows without us. The whole mission of the program is to create something enduring, create something that lasts. And with that mission, we're allowed to turn our attention every year to new schools and train those schools up. We started the program here in New York City about 16 years ago. And after a couple of years of success, realized that we could do this all over the country and beyond. So we started partnering with nonprofit performing arts centers who had local expertise, knew their communities and what their communities needed and wanted, and access to local teaching artists to take up the mantle and go into schools. So fast forward 16 years later, and we've had over 100,000 kids be in their first school musical as a result of Disney Musicals in Schools. We're going to start seeing the impact of this thing. There is an access gap to arts education, and this program is designed to chip away at that over time. And one of my favorite things about it is this is a program where 9, 10, 11-year-olds are being in their first school musical for the first time. And at the very end of our New York City program, and this happens in the program across the country and beyond, we invite those kids to be the stars and perform on our Broadway stage or on the professional stage of the nonprofit Performing Arts Center. And suddenly the whole paradigm shifts. We get folks like L. Stephen Taylor, who you just heard this guy's incredible bio, right? Not only is he Mufasa, but he also has a background in the arts and education, and he's welcoming them to the stage. And our Broadway performers sit in the audience, and everything kind of rotates in terms of the vantage point and perspective. And those kids realize that whether you're L. Stephen Taylor, and this is your full-time job, or you're discovering this for the first time, we all have a story to tell. We all have the right to tell it. And it's a pretty beautiful thing. So I'll let Stephen tell a little more about how he's been able to amplify and boost this program.
I mean, listen, my role is purely supportive. It's one of my favorite things that happens every year. And I can't remember how long that I've been involved. I don't know, maybe you remember, Lisa, my first time hosting. But I'm basically a host for this for the showcase that happens that after they perform and mount their musicals in their schools, they all come, as Lisa said, to the New Amsterdam, and certain schools are selected to perform a number from the musical that they presented. And myself and one of my coworkers, Benita Hamilton, are the hosts of the program. And so basically, we just get to introduce the schools, say a little bit about their teachers, introduce their teachers, and let them come and talk about their students and their process in mounting their productions, and then sit back and watch them shine. Like, that's literally my favorite part, where Benita and I are in the wings, just watching what it's a real reminder of what the arts are capable of. When you see how creative people are on their individual budgets, how they've taken this material that we think that we know, and they've kind of turned it on its head. It's so inspiring to see that. And, it's like it is a reminder that what we do is super important. And so it's like one of my favorite things that I've been able to be a part of over the past how many years? I don't even know.
I mean, I feel like a long time, like 8, 9. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's honestly one of my favorite things that happens, and the Broadway community in general. I know that a lot of the performers in Disney on Broadway shows come and watch this, and they love it as well. And we talk about it all night, all night. So yeah, it's a real blessing and a privilege and a source of inspiration for me, especially like going like the show, doing The Lion King that night after watching the Disney musicals in school performance is a completely different experience for me. I have to say every time.
Okay, so two follow-up questions about that. First, have you met other Mufasas, young Mufasas, and do they know that you are Mufasa, and are they interested in that? And second question, can you give an example of a time when you saw a restaging of something or you saw a performance that accomplished what you were saying, like made you rethink something or inspired you or had you like, oh, I've been doing this work in this way for 15 years and now I think differently about it?
Yeah, well, I don't get to really talk to the students because the day goes so quickly. Like they're moving the performances in and out. But it is funny because I have met some of them at the stage door. Like after they perform, like a couple years later, they've come and said we were in this and I played and another thing that is really cool is that it's like you'll have the young girls playing Mufasa or, so it's like, there are no, and that is really cool for me to see. So I think that one of the times specifically, like to that point was there was this young girl who was playing Scar and I can't remember what school she was in, but like the gusto that she brought to that, to that role, I was like, oh, you're scary, and it's like, it just kind of reminded me of this dynamic. We kind of sit into the relationship between, this dynamic between Scar and Mufasa in what we do in the show, but it's like seeing it, just from a different, just from that different perspective. It's like, no, Scar is, and honestly, just kind of reflecting what's happening in our world. It's just kind of magnified. You know what I mean? When you see something like that. So I think that being able to have that outlet and reminded of what an outlet it is that I have to also, make those same changes and those same choices is the inspiring thing that I would say.
Mm. Lisa, how do you identify and work with the teaching artists who partner with your classroom teachers? Do you leave that to the local performing arts center in New York? Do you hire and train the teaching artists? How do those folks come to work in schools and with kids?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it looks a little different in New York City where we're headquartered versus our partnerships on the road. So in New York, our Disney teaching artists are part-time employees of Disney Theatrical Group. So we hire them by, putting a job up in Playbill and having some interviews, and then they come in and they audition. And the audition, rather than having them sing, act, and dance, we have them teach other people how to sing, act, and dance. And that's kind of what we're looking for, not just their artistic technical acumen, but their capacity to engage, their capacity to connect, their capacity to make sure everybody feels comfortable in the space and is set up to do their very best. And we have just such an incredible crew of teaching artists. I mean, our teaching artists have been A-List dancers. They have been on Broadway. They have taught in classroom settings. They bring, one of our teaching artists just got her doctorate, right? So they are just this incredible group of humans who are coming in with this unique blend of skills. And it's a tricky thing, right? Because when you're a teaching artist, typically you go into an environment and you teach your art, you do your art. In Disney musicals and schools, you go into an environment and you do your art, but then you also tell someone else how to do all of the stuff that you've committed your life to, right? You're like, I'm going to teach you how to be a director. I know you're a third grade teacher right now, but when we end, you're going to be a director. And like, yes, I have an MFA and I've been working, for 17 years at this. However, I believe that you can do this too. And I'm going to give you my pro tips. It takes a real generosity of spirit to find folks who are ready to do that. And then at the sort of regional level, we're working with folks like the Overture Center in Madison, right, who have an education department, and they are the ones who are finding their own teaching artists to do the program. When we first established that relationship, our team here at Disney Theatrical Group will fly to that place and spend about a week with their crop of teaching artists and their administrators, training them in the program pedagogy. We know that they're going to hire people that can teach. We know that they're going to hire people who can sing, act, dance, stage manage, etc. But we're going to teach them how Disney musicals in schools exists in public spaces. So yeah, that's how we find them.
Stephen, have you ever interacted with the teaching artists the Disney New York-based teaching artists? Do you know any of those folks?
I do know that. Yeah, I do know them. A lot of them are colleagues of mine, and so I know them from outside of the Disney Musicals in Schools program. And then also, like a lot of times, some of the teaching artists will come over and facilitate talkbacks after our show with groups of students. So we get to interact that way. But yeah, I know a lot of them from just from the biz.
So it's folks like you, but who maybe are currently more on the teaching side than on the professional performing side of the house, and folks move sort of in between those.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, and like I also was have done like teaching artist type things as well while I was doing the show. I would say that the people who do this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but like the people that I know who do this are actually passionate about arts education and passionate about cultivating the next generation of theater folk. And so regardless if they were in a show or not, I don't think that most of them look at it as a filler, like as a filler job or anything like that. Like people are actually passionate about doing it. And I think that makes a huge, huge difference in making sure that this is something that's sustainable past the time period when they're putting up this one singular show.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Stephen. It's especially here in New York where there is such a arts economy. I find that our teaching artists are folks who need to teach to inform their artistry, and whose artistry informs their teaching. Mm-hmm. And it's to your point, yeah, they do sort of toggle back and forth. So, for example, one of our former teaching artists, Sean Mays, is he's a music supervisor for The Lion King, like the big Lion King, across all of our various sit-down productions. So that's he was on our teaching artist team. He was a music director. He would go into Disney musicals in schools and work with, a public school, elementary school music teacher. And now he's a music supervisor for The Lion King. Another one of our former teaching artists, Kalia Davis, is now the artistic director at the Coterie Theater, right? So they're coming with these professional chops and these highly artistic abilities, but they also need that to feed their soul. And it's a special group of people. And Stephen has that. And that's why he will never get away from Disney musicals in schools, whether he likes it or not.
I do not want to.
Can you talk a little about when you have in your life served as a teaching artist, kind of what your approach to working with young people, and kind of, I appreciate very much both of you, not leaning into those who can't do teach adage. Not that I thought that you would, but to highlight, that being a teaching artist is not a backup, but rather its own form of professionalism and artistry. And I'd love to hear a little more, Stephen, about how the kind of teaching artist you are and how you work with young people.
Sure. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work in another arts education program at Carnegie Hall called Musical Explorers, and that happens twice a year. And through that, I've been able to go and teach teach in summer camps. And my whole philosophy, I really do believe this, that artists are the people who are going to change and heal the world. That's not a revolutionary statement. Like it's been said. And I truly believe that. And I think that, setting the foundation of the next generation of people who are going to do that is really important to me, and so I do it whenever I can. But I take it from a standpoint. I didn't grow up with theater like a lot of people did. I come from a very underserved area in Indiana, and I happened into theater because my mentor, Cindy Hartshorn, in Indianapolis, she kind of pulled me from beginning choir, which was actually a holding class for me while I was waiting for a teacher in Arabic in the foreign language department, which we didn't have. So they threw me in beginning choir, and they were like, "Here, just sit here until we find a teacher." And Cindy kind of plucked me out of there and was like, "I see something in you," and I didn't know how much I needed that until I started doing theater. And I used it, and I always say that I used it as uh, kind of an escape from the, just like escaping into these characters was beneficial to me to, just kind of escape from the world that I was living in. And now, I kind of flip that and I use more of my experiences to kind of just like add some nuance into the characters I create. And a lot of the kids that I come into contact with come from similar backgrounds. And so I think to have somebody who looks like them, I seek out those experiences. So somebody who looks like them, who can understand and identify with where they come from and has access to how to use this thing that's kind of sitting inside of them that they don't really know how to get out yet. You know what I mean? And so I always take how I teach kind of from that perspective, my learned experiences just as a human being, and using the stuff that I used to run from to actually empower the people that I come into contact with.
I feel like we should also, Stephen, share with folks about the incredible amount of work that you put into our Stage Connect platform. And maybe I should tee up what that is, and then you can share a little bit about what you did in it, because it was a massive undertaking, and we're about to do something kind of exciting with it. So Disney Musicals in schools, as I shared, the model is, going into the school, teaching teachers how to do a show. And we realized that, there's a lot of stuff that happens in public schools. And one of the things is teachers turn over, right? So like say you've got a show that's up and running and you've been doing it for a few years, and then your director, who's actually a fourth grade teacher, gets a job in another school, right? Now there's this kind of like knowledge gap. So we created an online learning platform that is intended to be able to give any educator who will commit the time to putting on a musical all of the skills that they need to be able to do that. And essentially, we shot a feature film's worth of video content, including demonstration and instructional videos, and then created all of the downloadable resources that someone would need to be able to do a show, so that you're not coming up with production meeting agendas. We've got templates for you. You're not coming up with rehearsal schedules. We got you. We got a template, right? We're trying to make it easier for teachers to do this. So that's how we originally created the tool. And I can share more later about how we intend to use it. But L. Stephen and Benita Hamilton, who is his colleague in The Lion King, were our hosts for the whole thing. Stephen, do you want to kind of share about that experience? Because when you think about teaching artistry, we think about it in person, but I mean, the impact that those two are going to have in terms of inspiring educators through this platform, I don't think can be overstated.
I'm doing Stage Connect. I wish that was just kind of like something that was accessible to everybody who's trying to put up a show, because honestly, it just takes out the guesswork. It takes the guesswork out of what it means to put a show together, from picking out the show to production and everything in between, like selling tickets, picking out costumes and all of the things in between. It really does take the guesswork out of it. And Benita and I, we spent several days doing that. And we were the hosts. It's basically like your IGHTV, version for putting up a musical. It was very cool. And it kind of opened my eyes, or reminded me a little bit about, just about the process. And the really cool thing about Stage Connect is that, yes, you have the practical application of putting together a show from beginning to end, but what's mixed in there is all the team building stuff that putting on a show kind of amplifies, the working together, the team, the teamwork that the teachers also get to experience, the people who are putting on the show get to experience, and then kind of implement that and it's snuck in there. It's very, very clever how it's put together, and it's a lot of work on Lisa's part to make that come together. So all I did was read the words. That was definitely like one of the highlights, because it's like you really remember like everything that it takes, and like I said before, like everything that theater is capable of, even on the production side of cultivating life lessons and skills, even with putting up a show. So
say it again. It's called
Stage Connect.
Stage Connect. Thank you. Is it a student-facing platform or a teacher-facing platform?
It's a teacher-facing platform. Essentially, what it's designed to do is to take all of that professional development that the teaching artists typically deliver to the teachers over the course of their first school musical, and it makes it available through online courses. So if you've ever taken an online course, it's the same idea. You log on, and if you're the director, you've got a Fundamentals of Directing course, which includes the videos and the resources. And if you're the choreographer, there's one for that, or a stage manager or a producer. So it's really designed to build the knowledge base for the educators. There's not a lack of desire from public school teachers to bring the arts. There's not a lack of enthusiasm. There's a lack of time often. But there's also just people don't know where to start, right? And so if we can give them the where to start, that's the goal with Stage Connect. And we initially designed it to just kind of supplement the current program to account for things like teacher turnover. And now that it's been kind of out in the world for a bit, we're realizing, I think this might be a tool to expand access to Disney musicals in schools, because right now the schools who can participate have geographic access to a performing arts center. There are so many kids in so many schools that don't have that access. So we're cooking up something kind of exciting. Educators who are interested in bringing a piece of musical theater to their elementary school should kind of watch this space, because we're hoping to kind of crack open access to Stage Connect very soon in the future.
This is so exciting.
My name is Graham Isidore. I have a progressive eye disease called keratoconus. Admitting I'm losing my vision has been hard, but explaining it to other people has been harder. Lately, I've been trying to talk about it. Short-sighted is an attempt to explain what vision loss feels like by exploring how it sounds. By sharing my story, we get into all the things you don't see about hidden disabilities. Short-sighted from CBC's Personally, available now.
All right.
Go ahead, Alec.
This is all going way too well. What ruins your day? Here's what I mean.
How much time you have?
This is Alec's job, by the way, in this podcast. Is
That
to
is
come
my
in and
job.
ruin your day.
It's my life. Obviously, you have we assume vast resources behind you, allowing you to do all this, and it's incredible what you do with those resources, and I think it's great for people to understand where a lot of their Elsa dollars are going to. that it goes back out. We talk to so many schools whose struggles are so plentiful just to put on a play, right? And they'd be obviously lucky to have you. For you though, as an organization, what is difficult? What are the challenges you face, since you seem to do so many amazing things? And maybe they're none, and I can just shut up and you can tell me more cool stuff. But what is difficult in your job, Lisa?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot that's difficult about my job, and I think your point about resources, you're right. We're very lucky in a lot of ways to have a massive organization like Disney to be able to commit the resources to doing good work at the community level and authentic work at the community level, right? This is not just a photo op. We're going into these schools for 6 months at a time and maintaining a years-long relationship with them. And we're lucky that to have that investment to be able to do that. But this stuff doesn't just happen by accident. It is hard work, and I'm representing a team of 4 people in the education department at Disney Theatrical Group, and they are phenomenal colleagues. They are incredible. Sarah Kenny, Kiara Danielle Clark, Renita James, and me, and that's it. We're the ones making this happen. And I think people often hear, Disney, and they think massive enterprise, and all of that is very true. But at the end of the day, it's the 4 of us working closely together, working with folks like Stephen and Benita, going into performing arts centers, building those relationships with their education directors and their teaching artists, and the amount of time and care and expertise is tremendous for a small group. So I'm representing them. I mean, Sarah Kenny manages this program on the kind of global level to incredible success. And it is a small and mighty team. Oftentimes where people are surprised to hear how tiny we are. So bandwidth can be a real issue because we are a team who never settles for good enough. We are a team who is constantly innovating. We'll have student share, and we went all out this year. L. Stephen did a bit where he rubbed the magic lamp and the smoke came out, and all of a sudden Michael James Scott popped out the bottom of the stage and performed Friend Like Me for the students. We're like, we can't just do student share.
Did they freak out?
I mean, it was like a Beyonce concert.
Yeah.
You should see, we got incredible photographs of the kids' reactions, but if they weren't dressed like giraffes, you would think that they were at a Beyonce concert.
Yeah.
It was incredible, right? But that's the thing, is we're never satisfied with, okay, this works. There's always this improvement cycle, and that can be a challenge because there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
Right?
I was going to say, it sounds like physics is your challenge.
I want to bend time and space.
Right.
Hence the space photography.
Yeah, exactly. It's like level setting. And I also say we're working in environments where we want to set those schools up to be able to do musical theater within the resources that are available to them. And that looks different in every community, right? Mm-hmm. But regardless of the resources available in a community, whether it's abundant or they're just starting to build their budget to do this kind of stuff, we want to make sure that they have the same quality of storytelling experience, right? So it's constantly a reflection of how can we do this scrappier, right? It's one thing for Disney to come in and drop a bunch of resources in, but that's not sustainable. So instead, how can we work with the community to teach them, don't just buy off the rack costumes. Let's get a couple of bolts of fabric, and we're going to, here's how you can use vests one year and fashion it into a headpiece the next year, right? How do we think theatrically is a constant challenge.
And L. Stephen, if I could go in a completely different direction for you, I very quickly texted my wife as I was hearing your resume. She is an early childhood teacher and has been for decades, and very much wants me to ask you about your life. Lisa briefly mentioned a pre-K teacher, and specifically in both directions, how yourself as a theater artist informed that teaching, and then how that teaching went on to inform the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, your wife knows that there's no bigger stage in the classroom, and especially for that age group, because they're the most brutal audience. I always say it's like they will tell you, they know exactly when you are, when you're not on, when you're, when it's not truthful, they know. Right. And so I just there's something about teaching those 4 to 5 year olds that mirrors something that I experienced in performing, where you can see the moment that something new clicks in their minds, in their just in their beings. You see when they get something, when they lock in on something, and to that point, it's like that is something that I strive for, that most performers will tell you that they strive for, when that thing kind of locks in. I'll never forget the time, when I took over as Mufasa when I was 25 years old. And so I was very young. I've been with Lion King now. It'll be 20 years in March, and 11, I think 10 or 11 years playing Mufasa. But I was very young, and so I always felt like this kid playing in daddy's clothes. It never felt right to me. I was trying to emulate James Earl Jones. I was trying to emulate Sam Wright, who was the first who originated the role on Broadway, and Alton Fitzgerald Dwight, who I ended up replacing. And it just never felt like mine until I was like, no, wait a minute. Like, Mufasa is just a dad. I know what that's like. I have a kid. I actually like it. And the whole role just kind of clicked. It just kind of clicked for me. And I was like, this is what my students felt like when they can, start to sound out a word and make it make sense. And then before they know it, they're reading a page on the book. So there is something that mirrors that. And I think that is why, I think that's probably why this program works so well also, because it's like I think teachers innately have this desire to perform, and to want to engage in a way that is naturally theatrical. So they just don't know how to do it. I think that teaching, it goes back and forth. And I think that, artists in the same way have the natural capacity to educate, and likewise most of them just don't know how, which is another reason why this program is so important and awesome.
My academic nerd brain is going in a million places at once. The first thing I thought of, as you said, the aha moments was constructivism, which is like the foundational idea that all new knowledge is built on things we already know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that to assume that we are empty vessels severs new knowledge making, right? Mm-hmm. At its core. And so this kind of constructivist, you're sort of describing this constructivist idea play out both as a teacher and as an artist. That was kind of my first little Ratatouille brain explosion that I was imagining. But the something I wanted to go back to, and you sort of mentioned why this program is so powerful. I've run for many years, which our listeners know, a program called Whoopin' Soccer, which is an artist in residence program where we teach creative expression in elementary school classrooms through writing and improvisation and performance. And I have a cadre of teaching artists who I've trained, some of whom I've trained through my work at the university, where I get to work with undergraduates who want to be teaching artists, graduate students, but also community members. I live in Madison, Wisconsin. And as Lisa mentioned, we have a Disney Musicals in Schools program. And so sometimes I get to work with the classroom teachers who I know, some of whom have done Whoopin' Soccer. Madison is a small town. I've worked with those classroom teachers through Whoopin' Soccer. Some of my teaching artists are also Disney Musicals in Schools teaching artists. So I'm sort of familiar in this space. And one of the things that we've been working on with Whoopin' Soccer, because we have also discovered that there is a hunger for creative arts work in classrooms and a lack of resource expertise in communities outside of immediate places where you find professional artists. Mm-hmm. So in Madison, there is a wealth of teaching artists. In, Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, there are fewer. And so how do we expand our understanding of what it means to use the arts for the kinds of transformation that you all are talking about in these communities? And so we've been working with PBS on developing Whoopin' Soccer as a series of digital assets that classroom teachers can use to run our program in their classroom. What we've been talking about, and I don't know, I guess I'm interested in both of your perspectives on this, is how we can make these assets. Some of them are teacher facing, as you're describing, and then some of them we want to be classroom facing. That is, how can we have an L. Stephen Taylor in the classroom without having to fly you to Green Bay, Wisconsin, once a week for 6 weeks. And so we've been playing with the art form, essentially, of digital asset teaching, for lack of a better word, to support how classroom teachers can do this work, but as an aid rather than as solely a teaching tool for classroom teachers. And I just wondered if you all had played with that possibility, or, what you think is gained and what is lost when the teaching artists are not present in the classroom, working with classroom teachers and working with kids.
Yeah, it's a really interesting conundrum, because at the end of the day, we are a live performing art, right? Like, we are in the business of gathering people together and telling a story. And that is like an ancient, innately human thing. But the year is 2025 and we have new tools. I think we struggle with it. And I think it's something that I'm excited to see where it goes, because when you think about any other sort of like content, like discipline area in K through 12 schooling, a lot of the technology has been embraced and used. I mean, my kid is in 4th grade and she brings a Chromebook to and from school every day. And it's like a lot of the learning is on there, still facilitated by expert educators, right? But they're using it to enhance math, to enhance science. So how do we do that with the performing arts? I think is a really interesting question. We've done some, Sarah Kenny, who I mentioned, who's a colleague and on my team, when we released Finding Nemo as a show for young performers, there's a lot of like disability allegory in that show. And she's got expertise in disability inclusion and is a disabled woman herself. And she was able to create something that was intended to be student facing, that brought in some disabled artists to talk to the kids and not just the teacher about the work and how to approach the work with respect and care and authenticity, and also maybe provide a wider lens of how they were viewing the story and their engagement with the text. And I think it was very, very successful. And, the reason it became successful is because of the folks that she engaged to deliver the content, right? That's really the only like true student-facing thing. The Stage Connect stuff is all teacher-facing thing, but I'm excited to see where you all go with that. It's very cool. I don't know, Stephen, if you've done any more like student-facing stuff in your time.
Yeah, not digitally, but that does sound like a really cool thing that you're doing. You guys are doing, Erica. I mean, it's, you make a good point, Lisa, that it's like, sitting down in the theater, there's no experience like it, but access does become a huge part of the conversation in a lot of different parts of our country, especially. So it's like, while sitting in the theater and watching Hamilton is one thing, when we didn't have access to that over the pandemic, I mean, like, it was huge to be able to turn on the TV and be able to watch it. But for that to become the norm, I think it does become a conversation of how do we improve access, and I think that's kind of the perpetual issue that we come up against in the arts. It's like we're screaming into the void a lot of the times and trying to get the point across of how important the arts are in just on a fundamental level to people who don't understand it. So I think where I'm interested mostly is like how do we increase access so that the digital stuff does become more support as opposed to the only option. Like there is. I mean, for me too, I went to a public high school and we didn't have a lot of money, but when Up With People came to our, I was in the show choir, and when Up With People came, to our, to perform for, our little show choir in Indianapolis, Indiana, it made a huge, huge impact. When my teacher, did choose to take me to sit me inside the theater, and I saw for the first time, another Black person, because I was like one of, 3 people, but there was this Black person up on stage doing what I thought was, just like the hobby. I didn't know that people did it for a living. That was super impactful. So seeing that in real time, I think, is very important. But, like you said, access is an issue. So it's like, I think that we do need to have programs like the one that you're creating to help, kind of fill in the gap and support the live option for theater education.
I mean, I think what I'm hearing both of you say, which is absolutely things that not only that I believe, but that, I've done research across all different art forms to demonstrate, is identity matters, representation matters, right? So both of you sort of talked about kids being able to see themselves in the artists, whether that's a disabled artist, a Black artist, a female artist playing a role that men usually play, whatever. Those experiences matter.
Yeah.
And what I've seen is that classroom teachers benefit from the collaborative modeling that happens when they're they're in community with an experienced teaching artist. For all kinds of reasons, right? Some of which have to do with, and this is something that we think about a lot actually when we bring whoop and soccer into a classroom, is because we are different people and because we position ourselves as teaching artists rather than classroom teachers, we see the kids through different eyes. Yeah. And that helps the teachers to see kids through different eyes. Yeah. And that experience can be just as transformative for the classroom teachers as it is for the kids. And so figuring out, because I completely agree with you, access is better than no access, right? If the options are yes or no, I will take yes.
Right.
And within yes, how can that yes embody all of these values and experiences that we're describing? And turns out making digital stuff is hard. Did you know?
Sure did. We were slap happy by the time we finished all that Stage Connect filming. It's real hard, but it's important. It's important. It's a tool that we have to, transcend geographic barriers in a really important way.
Yeah.
What's next for you, Stephen? Like, where does your work go from here? Your work as an educator, your work as an artist? I mean, you're at the top of a mountain, both theatrically and professionally. But where do you go with this work?
Yeah, I just continue to try to literally find inspiration around me. And you're not wrong. It's like I am surrounded by, not just on stage, but then also people like Lisa, who are sources of inspiration for me. And so it's like right now I am focused, I'm writing this children's book series, My Lion and I, which follows this kid, Sammy, who's, 6 years old, and his dad passes down. It's basically centers on their relationship. And the first book is about Sammy's first day of school. And he's just terrified. He can't go to sleep. And, his dad passes down this ritual of, summoning this lion that kind of empowers him. And then he'll go on to use, to use that tool to, stand up to bullying, and to, actually Sarah and I, had an interesting conversation, Sarah Kinney, who Lisa had mentioned earlier, just about how children are fearful of people who don't look like them. And, that, shows up a lot in kids who have disabilities. And I think that the fear is just not knowing how or saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. And so I hope to work with, people like Sarah in one of the books to tackle that, to how to use your lions and pass on, Sammy passing that on to other kids in this book. I'm really excited about that. That's the next phase of me kind of marrying my love of theater and writing and, inspiring and educating is through this book series, and I'm working with another one of my coworkers, James Brown Orleans. To the point that we've all been saying, it's like kids are moving towards a more digital platforms. So he read, like the first draft, and he wants to turn it into an illustrated series that operates more as like a moving picture as opposed to a cartoon, I'm sorry, a moving book as opposed to a cartoon. So that's what's going on for me next. That's what's been taking up the majority of my time.
That sounds great. Do you have a release date? Like, do you know when the first book might come out?
My birthday is in August, and I'm a Leo, and so I'm
Leo season.
hoping to have the first book all done for Leo season.
Oh, that's terrific.
Can't wait to read it. It sounds amazing.
Thanks.
And Lisa, I assume this is taking up all of your brain space at the moment.
Yeah.
Is there a next, or is Stage Connect and the expansion of Stage Connect?
Yeah, it is a really major rollout that we're on the precipice of. So it is professionally, that's the move right now, and I'm very excited about the implications of scaling how many kids and teachers have access to this work. Yeah, and it's just a funny thing when you think about like the what's next question when you're privileged enough to be sitting in your dream job, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing. Why are you asking?
Are you interested in my job? Because
exactly. It is an incredibly fulfilling job that I get to surround myself with amazing artists like Elle Stephen. My department is just this amazing team of thoughtful, compassionate, creative, skillful innovators. And that it is just intrinsically motivating. And then we go out to see a school play, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like, this is where my salary comes from. It is an incredibly fulfilling thing, and I'm very, very grateful to be a small part of.
Small part. I love that.
If our listeners are teachers or parents or school board members, and they are like, we don't have Disney musicals in schools, is there a way that they can connect with your team, Lisa, to figure out how they might make this a part of their school lives?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone can go to disneymusicalsinschools.com to learn more about our current program and where it's available. And there's an info form that they can fill out if they're interested in how they would bring the traditional model to their community through a partnership with the Performing Arts Center. And that is also where we will have some information in the spring about Stage Connect and how that is going to be available to elementary schools that meet certain eligibility criteria in the U.S. coming for next school year. So we're excited about it.
Lisa Mitchell, Elle Stephen Taylor, thank you both so much. What a beautiful conversation. What amazing work you're both doing. And I am really excited for our listeners to hear all about it.
Thank you for having us. And like I said, thank you for being patient with my schedule.
Thank you for having us. It was a fun way to start the day.
Well, Alec, I have to say, it was both thrilling and intimidating to talk to the Disney folks who are themselves developing what sounds like is going to be an amazing online platform for training teachers and teaching artists about my own very humble attempt to do the same thing. It's exciting because it makes me feel as an arts educator that I'm on the right track, that thinking about ways to spread the pedagogy of teaching artistry beyond the people who do that work day to day, right? The Elle Stephen Taylors, the Broadway stars, the local stars of Madison Theater who do this work, spreading that beyond the local and developing digital mechanisms for building that reach sounds like that's the right tree to be barking up. And that was really exciting to me. And it was also really exciting for me to hear how, as you said at the beginning, how a big corporation like Disney that you don't expect to be committed to ideas of spreading innovation and arts education for all is something that they dedicate a lot of time and resources to.
When you think about doing that, I would imagine that a big part of your discussions have to be around trying not to be negative about things, but what is lost when something isn't, especially theater, live in person. I mean, we all obviously went through this in our Zoom year where we all had to say, okay, a lot is being lost, but we can't lose everything, so we got to do something. Now you have this product, or you have this idea, you have this concept, you have this bit of education that you want to spread. What are you asking yourself in terms of, here's what we can't lose, here's what we are threatened to lose by doing it virtually, digitally?
I think that's a great question. And I want to start by saying that we can't lose much more than we've already lost. So I believe the statistic is something like 3% of elementary schools have certified performing arts educators in them versus something like, I want to say, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but the percentage is somewhere in the 60s or the 70s percent of public elementary schools across the country that have certified visual arts and music educators. So it's not to say that the arts have disappeared completely from our public schools, but the performing arts, particularly theater and dance, are basically gone. And so we are starting from a place of there is a complete lack of quality of any performing arts education in our public elementary schools in the United States. So it is not possible for us to lose any more than we have already lost. That said, there are some real questions about how you design an effective set of teaching strategies that, with the goal of engaging others in live performance. And so the way Lisa Mitchell described the Disney Musicals in Schools program, it sounds like they're working toward a kind of online course model, right? Where the classroom teachers sort of take these training courses and then they're expected to do this work with the kids in their classrooms. We are trying something a little wackier. Now, we don't have the reach that Disney Musicals in Schools have, but we're university nerds. And so we tend to try more researchy, slightly more experimental ideas. And we are experimenting with whether the digital tools themselves can serve as teaching artist partners with the classroom teachers. So can videos that are student-facing, this is really on the outside, although maybe if this podcast survives 5 years from now, this will not be on the outside. Can a sort of AI teaching artist chatbot work with a classroom teacher to help them when they're stuck with creative ideas? How can we use these digital tools as enhancing practice, not just for instructional purposes, which is what it sounds like the Disney program is? Either way, without it, folks are not doing anything. So it can only be, in my mind, a plus to introduce the possibility for classroom teachers to engage their students in the performing arts with help from experts, whether they be the longest running Mufasa on Broadway, or they be, Professor Erica Halverson from the University of Wisconsin, who, oh, by the way, that's the flagship university in my state. And so I know that these are resources that I can rely on and I can trust.
Is there anything to the end product also changing as a result of this? That is, is your goal at all to say, how are you all young people making theater, making something that we might not call theater, but you call theater with your iPhones and your TikToks? Do you I don't know anything. Is there something to that, to the end point being a little different, that you are doing it online and that kids these days are doing whatever the heck they're doing?
We've talked about that in Whoop and Soccer. I don't know that Disney has gone there. I mean, I think their model, my sense is their model is much more if it ain't broke, don't fix it, replication of a tried and true thing, which I vibe with. I get why they're doing that. We have thought about that and done that, especially during the pandemic, right? When kids were telling and performing stories from their homes, kids were making performances in their bedrooms, using those as performances of stories that they'd written. And we've certainly had kids get excited about the art of storytelling through digital media. And we sometimes, in the sort of grand tradition of the Saturday Night Live digital short, right, we have made many wacky video representation of a kid's story. So certainly incorporating digital elements into live performance is a way to both capture kids' strengths and excitements and also leverage that you're using these kinds of digital technologies in the classroom. And as a live theater performer, I still go back to there is nothing like the live performance. And that is something that I will always value, both as an artist and as a teacher of the arts in communities, whether I'm physically there or not. So, given that conversation, Alec, I have a question for you.
I hope I have at least one, if not maybe two, maybe even three answers. But
I'd love three.
Okay, I think those are the rules.
So, if you could be a Disney princess, real or imagined,
sure,
what Disney princess would you be?
Number one, the Texas Hold'em princess.
One.
It's lesser known, but the Lincoln Memorial princess. Kind of. I show them where the gift shop is.
Oh.
There's a new I already work there.
Yes.
We've got a new museum opening next year. We're very excited about this.
She sweeps the steps, I bet, of the memorial quite effectively.
With when the music's playing, sure.
That's two.
Thank you. Okay. And number three is, come on, it's the Dodgers princess.
Three things.
And as long as we're listing stuff, have you got a couple ways that people could interact with this show?
I would love it. Everybody listening, I would love for you to subscribe and rate and comment on our podcast on whatever platform you are listening.
1, A, B, and C.
It helps us so much, and we are just delighted to continue to spread this message. We would love your feedback, and turns out we have a new email address that you can use if you would like to write to us, which is artseducatorspodcast@gmail.com. That may be easier for you than our prior email address. So that's artseducatorspodcast@gmail.com.
2.
What's the third? I've already forgotten.
Just come to Erica's house, knock on the door, say, hey, come to the university.
If you have suggestions for guests, we are always looking for new inspirational partnerships between artists and their mentors, and we are delighted to take your suggestions at artseducatorspodcast@gmail.com.
3 things.
Onward together.
Arts Educators Save the World is hosted by Erica Rosenfeld Halverson and produced and co-hosted by me, Alec Lev. Our executive producer is Doug Matica, and our audio producer is Justin Asher. Special thanks to our collaborators, the brilliant and talented Kate Baldwin, and our great friends at Story Pirate Studios, Lee Overtree, Benjamin Salka, and Amy Fiore. Original music is by Dan Lipton, and our artwork is by Lyra Evans. Check out our website designed by Cole Locasio at www.artseducatorspodcast.com. We're on Instagram at ArtsEducatorsPodcast, and you can write to us with your questions and comments at contact@artseducatorspodcast.com. You can also find us at a place called YouTube. And wherever you're listening, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. It really helps the show. We're proud to be sponsored in part by the University of Wisconsin-Madison and the Gibb Faculty Fellowship. Arts Educators Save the World was created by Erica Rosenfeld Halverson and Alec Lev.